let's talk for a minute about selecting fixtures and fixture order. In Onyx, just like in VISTA and pretty much any lighting console out there, when you select lights, you select them in a certain order, and that certain order matters. So we want to walk through how that matters and how to select lights in Onyx. There's many ways to do it. We're going to walk through some of the most common here. So the first and foremost thing to understand is selection order does really matter when you select fixtures. There are a couple ways, for example, that I could select some fixtures in Onyx. I could click and drag like this. Okay, just drag a box around my 2D plan. I could click and drag like this. Also valid. I could also use my fixture numbers and type them on my keypad. So for example, 201 through 210, enter. Or I could type on my keypad something like 210 through 201, enter. Lastly, I could just click on a bunch of fixtures here on the screen and they are all selected. However, there can be some issues with this approach. In Onyx, one thing you may have noticed in my last few selections is that the last selected fixture is always in red. That lets you know roughly some of the order that you've selected fixtures in. It's not going to tell you everything, but it tells you a lot. If we go to our programmer here, we'll see our fixtures here in order with our last fixture in red. The order that you select the fixtures in as you're working in VISTA, or rather Onyx, you're used to VISTA, sorry. The order you select your fixtures in is the order that various things are applied. So if we start working with effects, if we fan something across our fixtures, it's going to apply it to the fixtures in the order we selected them. So more often than not, you're going to create groups that are left to right or something very sequential like that. But do be aware, if you do accidentally go ahead and select things in a random order and then save that as a group or begin to work with effects or something else, what you'll see is not probably going to be what you want to see. So that's really key. Once we've selected some lights, say we select these by selecting 201 through 210, or maybe we just select the group for that fixture type, we then have a couple options on how to work through those. I'll turn on highlight to make it a little more obvious. Okay, one is just simply to work with them all at once. Okay, another, however, is to use the last and next keys on the keypad, or if you're on a console, you're going to see those over here. For example, on the NX4, they're up top. On other consoles, they are in other locations. Okay, nice and simple. You can press those to go through your selection and work with fixtures individually while still retaining the rest of them here in the programmer. And that brings up an excellent point. When we have fixtures selected, there may be some that are not actively selected but are part of the overall selection. If we go ahead, for example, and we'll just go back to our VISTA view, and we'll apply color here to this first fixture. Actually, we'll apply some pan because we're using highlight. So say we tilt this fixture forward, and then we go to the next fixture. Though all of the fixtures are part of the current selection, the only active one is the one we've selected with next. However, we can go and we can reselect or deselect, among other things. Okay, so in the 2D plane, you actually only get select all and deselect, but if we go back to how we were, in the fixture center, we're able to go ahead and reselect the grouping we had, at which point we could then work with all of those fixtures together. This brings up our next point, which is very important, which are the grouping tools. So the grouping tools are a really powerful way to store and work with different selections. I believe we talked about them a little bit in the last video. They allow you to do things like select every other fixture. Okay, select them in blocks. Block of 2, for example, can be really helpful with a 2-cell LED blinder fixture. And maybe if you're working with more cells, you might use more of a group. Divide allows you to divide the total selection numerically, mathematically, by the total amount. Mirror is similar, but it shows you fixtures from the end. And by group can be really powerful when building effects. It will allow you to select fixtures if you've selected multiple groups, and then setting this to by group. Now we can press through them, next, 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 and we get them by the group. This can be really powerful. All of these grouping tools are selectable, and within them, we're able to randomize our order, reverse it, sort it. There are different sort modes here in the action section at the bottom. Okay. There are also predefined grouping tools masks in this section, and any grouping tool mask that we've defined will be stored in groups just like we stored previously. It can be really powerful. Let's look ahead at fanning here in Onyx. So I'm just going to clear twice and then reselect those fixtures we were working with before the fuse washes. Fanning allows you to, well, spread any parameter across a different range. So for example here, we had last worked with tilts and it's selected. In Onyx, we see that a parameter is selected when this white box is around it. Okay. Now we can go next to fanning and it's going to tell us that we're fanning on tilt. Now we're able to fan across our lights, which allows us to create a spread, as you can see. There are different modes and options in here. By default, it just fans based on the center, which makes a lot of sense, right? The center fixtures don't move at all from where they were on that given parameter. The end fixtures move the most. But like anything, there are customizations here that can be done. For example, we can set a third point. So then we're able to draw things like this and make interesting shapes with our lights. We can make it a curve or linear. We can adjust as needed, and we can turn off the mirroring if we do want to work with the start and end fixtures separately. These tools can be used on anything. So here we used it kind of roughly on a position. It's a little rough, but I could then go to color and go to fanning, and now we're doing it on red. Of course, we have we had our highlight on, which was pulling out the color, but say we fan them all on red, we shut off our other colors, and then maybe we'll go ahead and grab blue and we'll fan it exactly the opposite way. So now not only are they fanning across left to right in color in red, but then they're going right to left in blue, making for a nice color blend across all the fixtures, while we also have a tilt fan that is tilting the lights roughly on the center. Again, this is rough, but it's a good example of a way to work with fixtures and be able to get the looks you desire with some great gradients in any parameter that supports gradients. So anything with linear values, the fan tool can work great with. Beyond that, between the deselect, select all, or deselect and reselect here in the fixture center, the best way to select different lights is generally going to be through the groups themselves. Remember, they're here in the fixture center. You can build as many as you'd like. They are also in the view that we made for VISTA here at the bottom. So selecting fixtures individually, and then we can work with them. We can apply grouping tools even after we've selected a group. There are lots of ways to work with things, and not necessarily any one right or wrong way to get it done. With that, we've basically covered everything you need to know to select and work with fixtures in Onyx, and hopefully it makes sense to you coming from a VISTA background. Some things are a little different, but overall it's not that far of a jump. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video series so far, and we'll dive into the next video where we'll be talking all about controlling our fixtures and creating stage looks. We'll see you there. Thanks.